Predictable main event, main events predictably. I am some guy named Rob, and welcome to the post-mortem of sorts following the Elimination Chamber 2018. Well, it is definitely the day after the night that was, and what a night it was. Yay. Hooray, pay-per-view. Go wrestling, go. I got to be honest with you. If the whole idea of this pay-per-view was to get me excited for WrestleMania, it failed on pretty much every level that it could possibly fail on. This was a pay-per-view with one solid match, one really interesting spot, and the rest of it was like a glorified version of Raw. I'm not going to take credit for that one, by the way. The glorified version of Raw is what Lee called it when we were talking offline before I recorded this. So I'm borrowing that from Lee. I'll give Lee full credit for that particular nugget. The rest of the nuggets, I wished I could have flushed them because this pay-per-view, quite frankly, is one of the reasons why I call these B shows. This was not a very... It wasn't exciting. It wasn't anything that I could look at and go, yeah, I'm really excited to see where they go from this now. It was safe, it was predictable, and in some cases it was extremely boring. Let's go through it. Let's do a little autopsy on this and see where everything went horribly wrong. We start off with what I think was actually probably the best match of the night, which was the Women's Elimination Chamber, and I was a little confused as to why they opened with this, considering how historic the event was set up to be. This was set up as the historic first ever Women's Elimination Chamber match, right hot on the heels of the first ever Women's Royal Rumble match. But I guess you can't have two main events with the women in it on back-to-back pay-per-views because WWE, apparently the fans are not into that sort of thing, which is a shame because this was actually probably my favorite match of the night. Mickie James's spot off the top of the pod was awesome. The setup between Sasha Banks and Bayley without explicitly going through with the heel turn, even though it was not really as much as I would have liked, was still interesting enough that they could still go either way with this. They can still continue to tease either of them turning heel, although based off of this pay-per-view, I'm going to say that the WWE is probably going to go the safe way and have Sasha Banks turn heel. But anyway, the finish of the match was amazing. That DDT looked absolutely devastating. So yeah, I thought that match was pretty good. I thought it was a great way to open up the pay-per-view. I think the crowd was really into it. I thought it was, definitely an above-average match, bordering on really, really good. And sadly, the rest of the night was a lot like a roller coaster because this would be as high as the show would ever get, and it was all downhill from here, and we would never again reach these heights. Next match on the card, which I think was properly placed, I think this was a well-placed match, was The Bar defending their Raw Tag Team titles against Titus Worldwide. The match, I mean, Apollo Crews looked great. His athleticism really, really was shining bright in this particular match, but it was still a very safe match, still a very boring match. It wasn't really even as good as some of their televised matches on Raw. It just felt like yet another match in the tag team division. And the fact that they did absolutely nothing with Dana Brooke, I was kind of hoping that they would do something, that she would show any semblance of character, because right now, really all that she is they have a hot blonde at ringside to be a hot blonde at ringside. That's really all it boils down to. She is an object. She is a prop. She's not even a person. She is a prop. She doesn't have any real agency. She doesn't influence anything in any major way or any discernible way to the fans. She doesn't distract anyone. She doesn't really get involved in the matches. Yeah, it was an okay match, but it really after the women's elimination chamber match, I mean, it's hard to follow that, especially with the way the last couple of eliminations went. You know, that big Bailey to belly suplex, the roll up by Alexa Bliss, and then you got the whole thing between Sasha Banks and Alexa Bliss to end the match. Yeah, that's going to be hard to follow, but really, I expected more. I definitely expected more from Dana Brooke and didn't get anything from it. I don't know what they plan on doing with her. I don't know if they plan on letting her go after WrestleMania, maybe moving her to SmackDown. No idea. Right now, I'm at a loss, and maybe there'll be some light shed on this on Monday Night Raw. But I really shouldn't have to wait till Monday Night Raw to see what's going on in basically what is essentially just another tag team match. Moving along, we have our next match with WrestleMania implications as Asuka takes on Nia Jax. And the stipulation is if Nia Jax wins the match, beating Asuka's 2.5 year undefeated streak, by the way, she'll be added to the women's main event at WrestleMania for the Raw Women's Championship. This match could have been better. I think they did a good job of making Nia Jax look strong to making her look like a credible threat. I think the problem is that they did it at the expense of making Asuka look a little bit weaker than she really needed to. Asuka is going into WrestleMania as the number one contender. She really shouldn't look like she barely squeaks out a win against Nia Jax, who she has solidly beaten many times in the past. So to all of a sudden have it be this completely one-sided affair, um, where Asuka really didn't get in quite as much offense as I would have expected. I thought the finish was very weak. That roll-up victory I thought was pretty weak. If that would have been like a roll-up into some form of counter that turned into like a submission armbar or something like that and got Nia Jax to tap, that, in my opinion, would have been a much stronger ending to the match. And then I would have been a-okay with the whole barricade spot. I thought was really good at the end. I thought that needed to be done because you knew that Jax was going to lose, but Jax still had to walk away from the match looking like a dominant, credible threat. I just think that they went a little bit too far during the match itself, and Asuka kind of suffered a little bit for it, but I think she'll be able to rebound from it without too much difficulty. But yeah, that spot looked pretty brutal. It was kind of cool. This takes us to our second to last match of the night. For anyone who really needed a piss break, because Matt Hardy versus Bray Wyatt was terrible. This match did not belong on the pay-per-view at all. This was not a pay-per-view caliber match. This feud was confusing. There was no resolution. There was no closure. Nothing interesting happened. And the fans hated this match. You know things are bad when you are on a Raw-only pay-per-view and you get a Rusev Day chant for a SmackDown superstar. I'm sure the beach ball was around in the crowd. Nobody cared. I didn't care. I barely paid attention to it. The finish looked weak as hell. I don't know if they cut this match short because of the men's elimination chamber match that was to come. I don't know if they cut it short because they wanted to make the Ronda Rousey thing a little bit longer than it was going to be initially. Who knows? I really don't know. And at this point, I cannot be brought to care. And I've actually, yeah, whatever. Moving right along. Of course, we are moving right along into the Ronda Rousey contract signing. And since this is a kayfabe contract signing, you know that there are some shenanigans to be had. We begin with Kurt Angle being introduced, followed by Stephanie and Triple H, and finally, the woman of the hour, Ronda Rousey. Now, I don't know if they had Ronda Rousey purposefully be terrible on the mic to make it sound like she was genuinely overwhelmed and emotional about being a part of the WWE, or if this is something where She desperately needs someone to act as a mouthpiece for her because she is absolutely abysmal on the microphone naturally. I guess time will tell with that, and maybe it's not entirely that important in the context of this particular signing, but yeah, it was pretty jarring to hear the stuttering and stammering out of her, and more so to hear it out of Grandpa Angle, who couldn't remember the difference between WrestleMania 21 and 31. I don't know what it is with Kurt Angle these days, but his promos are absolutely brutal. He's forgetting words, he's stumbling, he's tripping over his own tongue. I don't know what's going on with Kurt. I really hope he's not relapsing into his alcohol and painkiller thing that he had a while back. And I'm not trying to start any rumors. I really hope things are going well for him. But man, he has not been on the ball as of late, and it's kind of hurt because his whole thing was to kind of be that voice of reason. And when he sounds like a dawdling old man, it's hard to sound like the voice of reason. Um, I, I, yeah, I just really hope that if he's just a little rusty on the mic and he is entering into this program going into WrestleMania, that he kind of finds his groove because he's really going to need it if he's going to really put himself and Ronda Rousey over or this match over for WrestleMania. That looks like it's happening. I really like the spot with Ronda Rousey standing squaring up to Triple H. The crowd was really into it, and when she finally put him through the table, and you know someone's going to go through the table, it's a contract signing. It's required by WWE law that if there's a kayfabe contract signing and there's a table in that ring, somebody's going through the table. Even if they have to pull somebody out of the audience to put them through the table, somebody's going through the goddamn table. So yeah, I thought that spot was really well done. I liked it. Uh, didn't love it, but I thought it was interesting, and it has some potential. I do like the fact that Ronda Rousey isn't going to be thrown into the championship picture anytime soon because that would be a horrible, horrible disaster. They're going to build her slow, give her this big match to get her started, give her some heat, and move forward from there. This, of course, leads into our main event and to the surprise of absolutely nobody. Roman Reigns walks out as the number one contender for the WWE Universal Championship in a rematch from, yeah, they're going to shove Roman Reigns down our throats. Everybody saw this coming. The only thing that really irritates me about this match is that having Braun Strowman eliminate pretty much everybody from the match, with the exception of Roman Reigns, then jobbing to Roman Reigns after about 19 spears and 17 Superman punches is like a giant fuck you to the audience. That's just flipping your audience off, flipping off the fans and going, you know what? We're going to tease everything. We're going to tease you that we're going to give you everything. We're going to give you the man that you think should be facing Brock Lesnar for the title, but we're not going to give it to you because we don't give a fuck what you think. This is exactly what it felt like. It just felt lazy. It felt boring. It felt stupid. And why they decided to make this the main event when it was so predictable is beyond me. It makes absolutely no sense. And this is why I absolutely agree with Lee that this felt like a glorified version of Monday Night Raw rather than an actual pay-per-view event that should be building into into your biggest show of the year. This was your last Raw pay-per-view to get things right, to set your course, and you just kind of put it on cruise control and said, fuck it. They'll buy it anyway. So some closing thoughts. On this day, nothing interesting happened. Nothing of note took place. Storylines, well, there was one storyline that was potentially built between Sasha Banks and Bayley. We're going to see how that resolves. There was the storyline set up between Kurt Angle and Triple H, Stephanie and Ronda Rousey. That's gonna play out into a match at WrestleMania unless somebody else comes to take Angle's place, and then they'll do a kayfabe beatdown on Kurt Angle to protect him. Other than that, I saw absolutely nothing coming out of the Raw camp that really made me excited for WrestleMania. The Intercontinental picture is still whatever it is because The Miz was in the chamber, so there's no one really set up for him to face yet. That will probably have to start as of tonight. John Cena teasing a possible heel turn with his sort of emotional, I messed up and didn't make it to WrestleMania thing has potential, but honestly, I've seen John Cena too many times to care. He's gotten stale and boring, so maybe a heel turn will let me see him from a fresh angle for once. I would hope. They've been teasing this heel turn for a decade now, but I'm not really counting on them pulling the trigger because he sells too much merchandise. As far as the tag team situation goes, we are no further ahead than we were the night after the Royal Rumble. Um, yeah, that we're really just sort of spinning our wheels and hoping that the momentum from the Royal Rumble carries us through to WrestleMania. There are a lot of guys that don't have dance partners that I think they're going to have to hastily throw together some matches for, or just throw into the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. No idea what they plan on doing with that, and honestly, it's just kind of annoying that we have to wonder about that sort of thing. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll see you for the next pay per view. Um, take care.